this is how you work this tool, this is how you work that tool. You know, just go on out there and function for society. Then you take your side, put the, well, you're going to go to college, so we'll fund you to go to college. Whereas the other, it's like a class system. So, and it is the federal government from East Coast to West Coast dictating what we're learning in our schools. What our children, well, in my case, grandchildren, are learning.
Okay.
You don't know about any of this?
Let's go ahead and go on to the next question. And then we'll stick with the script here and
come back to it?
Yeah, I'll come back to it. Okay?
Give you time to think about it.
All right. What do you know about Agenda 21? What's your opinions on it? Do you know Agenda 21?
I'll be honest, Charles.
A little lax in Agenda 21.
We have so much other stuff going on.
Let me give you a sustainable development.
Okay.
Another code word
All
for it.
about the sustainable community.
I don't know a lot about it.
Okay. You, Mr. Comrie?
The only thing that I know about is when I was told earlier this evening when I first came in, I had a nice discussion and I was given the highlights of what the program is.
Yeah.
And
It's
Okay.
something you should
It's
investigate.
and it's not to put you on the spot. It's to this is something. No, this is something we need to get you information. We need to get you all information on it then. Okay. As I said, this is information sharing between us.
Right.
It's not to put nobody on the spot. Okay. All right. So.
And what would be interesting to me would be, okay, Agenda 21, and how would it impact the local communities?
Okay.
You know, and put it on our level rather than say on the federal level or the state level, but how would it affect
Bill?
And
us and what we do?
And the information is there. We'll tell you that Knoxville is part of Ixley now. Okay. Chattanooga is. Nashville. I'm pretty sure Memphis is. Jackson, Tennessee. Murfreesboro. Okay. Agenda 21 is the agenda for the 21st century, and it come together out of Rio de Janeiro back in late 90s, late 80s, under Bush 1, and was signed in by Bill Clinton. Okay, so we will get you information on this. You need to know it. Okay, it's all UN driven. Okay.
I'd understood it was, yeah, that's true.
Okay, so that's why we're here.
And
Okay.
it sounds pretty.
Sounds pretty.
When you hear it and read it, it all sounds pretty, but you've got to look into it and behind those pretty words.
Okay. All right. Question number 3. What is your opinion on using taxpayer dollars for funding nonprofits, to fund nonprofit groups and agencies?
well, I can tell you the position that I've taken in Jefferson County. And I'll give you one example. It would be, and there's probably animal lovers in this room, but it's concerning Humane Society. That's come to county commission, and they were given, our nonprofits in Jefferson County total a little bit over $1 million a year we give away. To get back to what I was talking about, the animal shelter, Humane Society, my position has been, why do I want to see taxpayer money going to fund that operation? If it's that needed, and if it's that much of a asset to the community, let them go out and raise their own funds amongst their own people, but do not take tax dollars to do that. And that's a position that I have had, and that's a position that I'm maintaining. Now, we can get it a little bit further down the road, and say that we all have some social obligations for different things. But what are those? And how far do you want to go? And that's going to boil down to individual opinions. You know, if you've had a case, say for example, in your family, a loved one, a parent or somebody had Alzheimer's, you may be very sensitive to that and feel like there should be some funds come into that. But then that goes right back to the people that love dogs and cats. There are some people that care more for their dog than they do their own children. So it needs to be looked at. But I'm not in favor of, and I've taken a position against funding nonprofits. They ought to raise their own money.
Bill?
As far as Hamilton County goes, and again, on how you define nonprofits, like, for me, there are some county, I believe, I'm pretty sure I'm correct, there are some county responsibilities under the state law as far as animal control goes.
There is.
And so, you know, there needs to be some funding for animal control and animal shelter. There absolutely needs to be. And that's something that we're tackling now with exactly how efficient ours is being used. And libraries, I don't think of those as nonprofit organizations. Those are services that we need to provide as a community. But, you know, the CSAs and the MATs and those kind of things I see as social service agencies. And the way I look at it is, if we didn't, and we don't fund, we fund, it's close to $1 million we fund in various social agencies, and so it's a very small portion of our overall budget. The way I look at it is, if those services are not provided, and we would have to provide them under state law another way, either directly or otherwise, then I think we need to fund it. It just depends on what is our obligation under the law to provide those services. And that's the way that I think the Commission through the years has looked at it, especially over the last 10 years. And let me see, I don't anticipate, and I wouldn't support any other increases to our nonprofit funding, but I wouldn't support cutting them all out either right now.
Okay. All right. Question 4. Do you feel that the tax rates are too low, just right, or too high in your county?
You asking them or us?
I'm asking them.
That's a loaded question.
Well, as far as property tax rates go, what I would support a tax increase for a targeted, so that if there was targeted funding, that it would go for a targeted purpose, and it was a need the community had, or our community has, then I would support a tax increase. It has to be targeted, and it has to meet a need of the community. That's the way I look at tax increases of any kind. I don't necessarily believe in a community saying we haven't raised taxes in 8 years is a good thing. But I don't see it as a bad thing either. It depends on what the circumstances are and you know what the money is being used for. I think in Hamilton County, I think we use our money wisely, and I think we do a good job managing our funds, and we start with where we use the most dollars, like what we started 2 years ago, and our employee health clinic has helped us save money and the benefits that we provide our employees. If we had not taken that step 2 years ago, you know, we would be spending $150,000, $200,000 more on health care for our employees than we do now. And so it just, to me, a tax increase needs to be used for a targeted purpose.
I agree that if there is going to be a tax increase, it has to be a legitimate target that we're going after. Basically, and just speaking in general terms, I've always been against tax increase. I've vetoed every tax increase come up because I think government wastes money. I think the fact that you need more money, it's too easy for elected officials to go out and raise taxes to cover that need instead of handling the money wisely. And let me give you one example of what I'm talking about. When I was mayor in Jefferson City, we had and operated our own water and sewer system. Those are considered enterprise funds, which means you can't take property tax and send it into the water and sewer system. It has to be self-sufficient, whatever the rates are. A rate increase to me is basically the same thing as a property tax increase. They're digging into my pocket, take money away from me for themselves. The rate increase was asked for the water and sewer fund because they said they weren't bringing in enough money. And this is a true story. I asked a simple question of our engineer and the city administrator that was making a request for an increase. I said, how much treated water are we losing now? And they couldn't give me an answer. And I said, well, then why are we asking for a rate increase? And the answer was because we need more money. We don't have enough money coming in this account. Well, then tell me, how much money are we wasting? How much money are we losing? Nobody can tell me. I asked them, I sent them on a mission, I said, come back next month and give me a percentage of the treated water that we have that's being lost. During that month's time, I did a little investigation myself. I went out and I found out how many gallons of water we treated in a month, how many gallons of water we pumped to our tanks, the storage tanks, how many gallons in a month's period did we sell. Then you can compute how much is being lost. Well, the following month came around, the engineer came back and he said, we can determine that there's between 10 and 15% leakage, loss in your system. And that's about average. I said, by whose determination? Well, my figure showed that we were losing literally hundreds of thousands of gallons every month of treated water, that we were having to put chemicals in, that we were pumping using electricity, that it just so happened the very next day the water department came back into my office and the main trunk line had been covered up with brush and leaves. It was under the bridge going to the North Hills area of our city, and the whole bottom of the pipe had been busted out and treated water had just been flowing into Mossy Creek for heaven knows how long. But yet they come and they ask for a rate increase. They didn't stop the problems. They didn't stop the loss. They didn't know what the loss was. So it's too easy just to automatically raise things. I think you've got to analytically get down to it and find out what the problem is. It's too easy to just say, well, rates have gone up, so we've got to increase ours.
Okay. Next question, Bill touched on this before. Do you believe that our county needs a new jail with more cells to house more people?
I can tell you we're out of room.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think it's a bigger issue than that, than just more room. I think that in today's society and what's going on now with the prescription drug issue is, okay, you've got a part of your population who are just criminals. And so, you know, they need to be locked up and they need to be separated from society. I mean, they're mean people. They're going to steal from others. They're going to hurt others. They don't care about anybody else except for themselves. Okay? They need to be locked away. And then there's those who, I think we could, and it would, and I look at it two different ways. One way from a humanitarian point of view, we need to try to salvage. All right, is that government's role to try to salvage? Well, all right, let's look at the financial part of it, from the gearhead side of it, okay, would it be cheaper, all right, for us to operate some kind of facility that offers drug treatment and an extent, not 30-day drug treatment, because that doesn't work. That's not long enough. The brain is just recovering. I mean, it's just getting cleared from the drugs that the person has taken after 30 days. But is some drug treatment, some longer-term drug treatment, okay, with some job skills training and some character building type therapy. And I think with that we can salvage some of those people who are in jail and coming in and out of jail. Now, can we salvage all of them? No. But would it be cheaper to treat those folks and operate those types of facilities than it would to build a jail and under the requirements of confinement for someone to staff a jail, which is your main cost, not just the building, but the staffing. And would it not be cheaper? And that's what we're getting ready to enter is in a study into that is a criminal justice needs assessment and feasibility study that we're getting ready to hopefully enter into and start. And it'll take about 90 days to get that done. And we look at our population. We look at the last 10-year history of what's the cases in our criminal justice system. I can tell you 90%, like I said, 90% of the folks are there for drugs. I would like for us to think outside the box rather than just warehouse prisoners, because the same people are coming in and out. And if you talk to anybody, you talk to any of the judges, you talk to the law enforcement people, that's what's going on. It's the same people in and out. They go back, they get released, they go back, hang out with the same people, use, steal. They're back in the system, and we've got to try to interrupt that cycle. And we have an active drug court program. Actually, it's a recovery court program, which has been very successful. I've got a great director. She's been on the job about 2.5 years. She used to run New Hope Recovery Center downtown, and it's encouraging to go to their graduation ceremonies and to sit down and talk to some of those folks whose lives have been changed through that kind of program. And the state is encouraging that, recovery courts. And I think if we come up with some innovative and creative programs that the state would help finance some of those. And that's one of the avenues that I'm going to investigate instead of just warehousing prison.
I agree with the mayor. It's if you build a jail and you've got 1,000 beds in it, within 90 days, you're going to have 1,200 prisoners. You can't get ahead of the curve. There is a problem, and it is drugs more than anything else. And how much money can you spend to rehabilitate someone and make them productive, and make them a viable citizen and a part of society? Or how much are you going to spend just to lock them up and then turn them loose and let them do it again over and over and over? I'm not smart enough in psychology or anything else to give you an answer, but I know there has to be something better than what we do. But this is really not so much a question for us locally, although it is a good question, because it's going to be mandated by the state and the federal government, which is almost like education. It's Washington dictating to us locally what we have to do and when we have to do it, which I personally resent. Because my philosophy is, if I don't have good drinking water, if I don't have good sewer system, if I don't have good schools, you're not going to live here. You're going to move somewhere else. But let us make a decision locally what to do instead of having another government agency dictate to us, like in education. Teachers don't teach today. They have to do compliance. Everything's compliance. They spend a very small part of their time trying to teach kids. And who's suffering?
Kids.
The kids are suffering because they're not getting the quality of education. You build jails all over the nation, don't care how big they are. State's going to come in, they're going to say, we're going to close you down, we're going to fine you, the federal government's going to be all over you. They make you build it. Well, what if we don't want no jails? You know, but that doesn't really answer the problem. I go back to what the mayor said. There is a problem and there is a solution somewhere, hopefully. But I can't speak to it because I don't know. But
And it's larger. It's an issue. It's larger.
it's huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
It's just me or Mayor Palmieri. But I feel very strongly that as Hamlin County goes through this process and trying to determine what we do with our corrections and our justice center, is that we do something else besides warehouse prisoners. Because we can't keep on doing the same thing and expecting different results. And so we need to look at that as we go through this process.
Okay. That was my 5 questions, or our 5 questions. I thank you guys for taking part in it. Like I said, this is issue questions. Okay. And so if y'all want to take any more questions from the group?
What was the question? What was the question? I forgot.
On the Common Core, your statement on the Common Core,
One thing.
the one that you was making.
It's not, by the way, guys, that thing about the Pledge of Allegiance takes too long. Did anybody see that on TV today?
A school district, the high
Yes.
school, said they can't have the kids give the Pledge of Allegiance. There's not enough time in the day.
Not enough time.
10 seconds.
Okay.
Yes.
School board. School board did.
Common Core.
Doris?
Common Core.
Talking
Yeah,
about the
comment.
jail situation. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Ladies first.
He pointed to me and I thought.
Go ahead.
it through. I was gonna say, I agree with you, rehab is better if you can do that for as many people as possible. And another thing I wanted to know though is, do you use ankle bracelets, or I don't know what you call them?
That's, yeah. We use them, we don't use them a lot. And,
Or not violent, I mean.
right, no, we don't. And the program, I've sat in on a couple of presentations on those. And now the judge is the one who would order it. Okay, and I can't tell Judge Collins, use ankle bracelets. That's his decision. And they use them from time to time, but they don't use them as a regular method. It all depends on the situation. And a lot of it has to do with
It only gets worse.
the program that, or the agency, or East Tennessee Human Resource Agency, administers the program in this region. And the prisoners, or the offender, has to pay for the bracelet and pay for the monitoring. And most of those people don't have the resources, or even their family have the resources to do that. So it's
Well, that's what I was wondering. Is it more expensive or less expensive to do that than to house them in jail? As a temporary measure until you can get the
right.
rehab facility that you need.
I think that would be. I know our chairman of our commission has really been interested in investigating that option. I think as an overall, not just by itself, but as a component of an overall plan, that we could use it more than what we do. We use it some, but not a whole lot.
I have another, if it's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
You were talking about lowering your cost for medical.
Yes.
What is Obamacare going to do to that, the ACA? Is it going to go back up, your costs?
It will increase our costs. The delay, the first delay, I understand he delayed some implementation today for a year. The first delay we had $16,000 it was going to impact us, and so, that saved us $16,000. And the next year, it was gonna cost us more, around $60,000, and that's just fees. That's not counting the premium increases. But what our insurance broker tells us, that our 11.5% increase in insurance coverage for next calendar year, 3 or 4% of it can be attributed to Obamacare. So,
I thought it was interesting, he didn't say delay it for a year. He said delay it into 2014.
okay.
I thought he's learning how to parse his words.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Just a couple of comments. On the jail situation, if you go after the suppliers, then that will cut down on the population in the jail. You know, if they can't get their drugs, that will make a difference. And on the Common Core, if you look at who's backing it, it might change your mind about it.
Yeah, yeah. And the Common Core deal is looking into, well, it's just like the Agenda 21 is coming more knowledgeable of it, and you see what's driving it. That's what has people concerned, you know, especially people who's really looked into it. And the deal with the jails, you know, as we talked about housing more people. If you build one that holds 1,000, you're going to have 1,200. We're supposed to be the freest country in the world, but we have more people in jail than any other country in the world.
That's because they
Than
shoot
any
them.
other country worldwide.
Yeah, that's a good point. Cut their hands off. But, I mean, look how many laws we have on the books, too. That's something to think about. All right. Any other questions?
Mayor Britton touched on tax revenues. When the new Walmart's built, we'll be getting some of those dollars back from Jefferson County.
Well, and that's things that you got to look at. I mean, it's going to affect people like that. You know, when we built the new Walmart over here off of 25, how many people come from Granger County instead of going to Rogersville to the Food City? You know, it affects that, and you got to look at that. It's what the truth of the matter is this, and I'll keep it simple. I won't go into great details because I'm liable to get punched or something, but there's only so many tax dollars out there. You say you're going to increase tax revenue by doing this, you're actually just taking it from somewhere else and getting it because there's only so much tax revenue out there, and that's just a fact. You're just getting it from somewhere else, and you're taking away from somebody else. It's all the competition.
Well, and in Jefferson County, see, we've got somewhat, where the mayor had talked about Hamilton County knowing what they are and who they are, Jefferson County is a little bit different. We've got so many different segments. We got blue collar, white collar, we've got educated, uneducated. We've got so many different groups that we really don't know who we are. We got some that want to remain a bedroom community, some want to have an industrial spurt, some want to be just retail establishments, and there's almost an equal number of each one of these groups. So trying to deal with them all can be difficult at times. But the one thing that's pretty common is like here in Hamilton County, we don't have a theater or anything in Jefferson County, but we're glad Hamilton County does, and we don't object to coming down here and giving you our tax dollars for the entertainment. Because there's a good segment that would rather have it in Hamilton County than in Jefferson County. It doesn't really make sense, but people are different.
Right.
And that's some of the things we're going to contend with and deal with.
Well, I think one thing.
All Jefferson County's tax dollars are going to that ABC store here in Hamlin.
That's right.